Hello everyone, welcome to my review of The Harder They Fall. This review has 4 parts, ending up with my final verdict on the movie. So this movie was directed by James Samuel, and it has a very star-studded cast, with Jonathan Majors, Zazie Beetz, Regina King, Idris Elba, Lakeith Stanfield. So the cast itself is quite amazing, and each and every one of them are amazing actors. So this is a new take on the old genre of Western. So let's start up with the most amazing things about this movie that I really enjoyed. Firstly is the opening scene. I love that it the idea of this calm before a storm. Like the entire sequence when it starts, it's so calm. And then you have this wholesome prayer of this family sitting together for their meal and praying together. And that mysterious knock, all of a sudden, the entire feel of that scene is very well done. And the dread of when Idris Elba kind of walks into the cabin and you see the dad kind of look towards the shotgun oh, something really bad and tragic is about to happen. And this entire sequence I think was very well done. The soundtrack throughout the entire movie in many places is just completely, it elevates the entire material. How it it's a beautiful marriage between the scenes and the soundtrack that has been used. Not everywhere, I'll talk more about it, but in most cases the soundtrack is just amazing. It elevates the entire material. Next, I want to talk about my favorite character from the entire movie. It's Cuffy. I actually don't know, unfortunately, the actress's name, but Cuffy as a character from initially when she's being introduced as the bouncer, she does an amazing job because she's the underdog character, or I don't know, for lack of a better term, but she resembles someone that you'd think would be physically weak, and she's just thrashing the people in the bar. That sequence, I really enjoyed it. We've seen it done so many times, but it was still it seemed not fresh, but very well done. So very enjoyable. And later on in the movie, when she is faster than someone who's kind of portrayed to be the fastest one with the guns in the entire movie, and she her still coming out on top against him, that entire that hero's journey was amazing. I really enjoyed that part. And then her finally ending up joining the law enforcement was a great development, an amazing character development. I really love her entire arc. The movie does a really good job of completely creating her arc with very limited screen time, and the actress was amazing. So yeah, that is one of the problems with other characters that I have. They don't get literally any development. At least for me, I didn't see any development, or I really couldn't connect myself to those characters at all. Next up, I want to talk about the direction. Direction is amazing. I love that the split screen in the initial scene of the train robbery, or the jail breakout. The split screen that's been used was quite effective, and I really enjoyed that scene. And there are some shots which seems they were shot using drones, but they feel very moving, as in the shots aren't very still. They seem to be as being in motion as much as the characters are. So the camera seemed a character by itself, which I really love. It's very stylistic, and I love the stylistic choices that the director has made. It's very well directed in terms of that. Next, the most amazing thing that I found was the fight between Mary and Trudy, which was done very well. I love them. They were both quite brutal in their fight, and that you didn't see most movies would cop out with the aggression when two women are fighting, and then they don't do that. It's as aggressive that you can imagine two outlaws fighting against each other. Well, Mary is not technically an outlaw, but two women, formidable women going against each other. It's very aggressive, and I love the action sequences between them. Next, let's move on to the good, which I feel could have been better. Starting off with Bill Pickett. I love him being a lone sniper in the initial scene where he's introduced. He's like just by himself going against the Red Hood gang. The Crimson Hood gang, my bad. Yeah, he's just like taking them down. It's a really good, and like him singing by himself. I love that entire character development, but they don't show enough of him for us to like get more attached to him. And I feel that's like a missed opportunity. We could have he could have been a really, really good character. He could have been an amazing character, but yeah, I wish the director had done more with him. Next up is when the good part would be the train prison break situation, the scene. I think it could have been much better and more menacing, and I'll get to that why. But the thing is that I love the scene because of Lakeith Stanfield, Cherokee Bill. His character is really, really good. I love his character. And the entire sequence could have been more dramatic and more violent, but it just seemed too easy. And also the idea that like, oh, he's already been pardoned made it more easy, and I didn't actually enjoy that. I wish it had more brutality to it and more consequences. It just felt like, oh, the consequences would have been this anyway because he's already been pardoned. Like the stakes weren't high enough, and I wish they were. And Cherokee Bill as a character was amazing, as I was referring to him before, played by Lakeith Stanfield. I love his acting. I love how he showed his authority, as like how good he was with the gun as he walked through the train. He seemed so confident that you felt confident that in his character that his ability is far beyond, and he's gonna there's gonna be some very good and interesting action sequences with this character, which also I feel is a kind of a missed opportunity. They could have shown more him doing more badass. I know like when you're playing a villain character and not the main villain, but like a side character, sometimes it's hard to show as much of your backstory. So I'm not asking for them to show much more backstory, but I think they could have given it more cooler action sequences. And I think like elevating, like making it more brutal, the train sequence would have allowed him to play and be more brutal. But I still loved what I got. Although they kind of ruined my love for that character in the end of the movie when he kind of shoots Jim before the countdown ends, which felt very out of character and kind of ruined that authority, made him feel more insecure, or like he has to cheat to win. It kind of ruined the authority and the confidence that I had in him in the beginning sequence where he felt like, oh, he is really good and that's why he's being confident. But it kind of ruins that in the end of the movie. And also like him shooting from the back was like, whoa. It was like, now I have literally no respect for that character. So I really didn't like that, like how they took this, like built up this character in the first sequences into this like amazing and formidable foe, and then like kind of dropped the ball at the end of the movie. Didn't enjoy that part. Next up, another good character that I felt they could have done better was Treacherous Trudy, played by Regina King. I think her character is very interesting, I feel, and I love the story that she tells Mary when they're like in the interrogation scene, interrogation scenes are one of the best scenes like in any movie. I really enjoy them, and I really love that she starts telling about her like childhood and her younger sister suffering through polio and her taking revenge to protect her sister from Mary the bully. So I really love that sequence of like their interaction, and she seems so menacing, and she seems like she would make a much better main antagonist, better than Idris Elba, because she seems much more menacing, and like how she almost strangles Mary, and the entire time how her acting is just amazing. She seems an amazing villain. So I'd love to see more of Trudy in the future. And now I want to go to the end of the movie. It's about the twist. I don't know how I feel about it. I really like it because it was totally out of left field for me. But I think any other actor other than Idris Elba playing the antagonist would have... Not any other actor. A better actor who can play a better antagonist would have kind of made the twist, the sequence, the scene would have been much better, I feel. Because Idris Elba, I have some very strong thoughts about Idris Elba being the main antagonist of the movie. But I think... I also feel if they kind of revealed the twist, or if it wasn't a twist, if we already knew the ending twist at the beginning of the movie, I feel like it would have let someone like Idris Elba to make more of that character. That's how I feel about it. I think Idris Elba is really good at playing emotional characters, and the director kind of made this character, the antagonist of Rufus Buck, being kind of void of emotions, and it just doesn't work with Idris Elba. He doesn't seem like someone that ruthless, being devoid of emotions. So that's the good. And now I want to go to the sequences which are kind of meh. It's like totally missed opportunities. Like, you could have done something. There's something there, but like you could have done better with it. And one of them being Jim Beckworth. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it, Jim Beckworth. He was supposed to be the comic relief, and it didn't actually work for me. His the jokes, the comedy didn't land for me. He just, every single time he would keep on ranting about something silly, as in I'm sweet. That's initial sequence. From that moment on, I was like, oh, he's gonna annoy me throughout the entire movie. It just didn't work for me. And then the second one would be Stagecoach Mary. It's I love women who are not being kind of run around by other men, powerful men around them. I love women with authority. But I hate that her decision of going into, even though she's been being warned by Nat Love, women with authority who are who are not gonna listen to anyone else around them, any men especially, just to keep their authority, is somehow listening to someone else gives away your authority. I don't like that idea. So yeah, I really hate the decision of her going in by herself to... I don't even know, the movie doesn't even make it as clear why is it so important that she has to go in there by herself to do what. So it just felt very, very dumb. Now let's move on to one of the important problems that I couldn't enjoy the movie as much as I wanted to. It's Idris Elba. They wanted to make the character of Rufus Buck being kind of, as I felt, they wanted to make him kind of devoid of emotions and very brutal and menacing. Which Idris Elba doesn't, he can't do that. He's I know he's a good actor, but his eyes and everything, he's really good at characters. In the Suicide Squad, he plays characters with some emotional attachment very, very well. He does such a good job in the Suicide Squad because he has this emotional attachment to the Ratcatcher, to that character, and he's really good at it, playing those characters with emotion. And when you take away that emotion, he can't play that that brutal, menacing character who's just supposed to... He doesn't look menacing enough to be the main antagonist, which kind of makes the entire movie kind of... If the main villain and the entire movie is kind of based on taking revenge and killing this person, and the person himself, who's supposed to be the crux of the movie, is not a strong enough character, it just feels like the movie isn't hitting the points that it's supposed to. And there's this scene where he's kind of being clumsy, trying to tuck the shirt in. Makes it... Maybe they tried to make him seem more, I don't know, normal, make him seem not a monster or something. It just doesn't work, whatever they tried to do. Make him seem more human. But I don't know, they tried, but there was no attachment. That simple thing just made him look goofy. and it didn't work with what they were trying to do initially, making like the goofiness and the devoid of emotion, they just didn't gel together. So that character was like very confusing. Next up, I want to talk about Marshall Reeves. That's the thing, like, I can't talk much about him because like his character just feels like just got shoved into the story without any particular reason for him being just like, he was just meat to increase the Nat Love gang, basically, just more men. They didn't show enough of him at all, or him bringing in Rufus Buck. They could have like, he could have said something more, which could have helped them at the end. I don't know, maybe that's, he could have been like, the last time I caught him, there was something that he learned which would have helped them. Like, his character seemed very meaningless, as in like not pertinent to the story at all, which felt kind of meh. Lastly, it's like the protagonist of the movie, Nat Love, feels quite meh as well, and his entire gang. Like, there's no attachment to him. Like, I love like the idea that like in the trailers that they portray, like, oh, he only robs and kills people who are already outlaws, criminals, so he's kind of this Robin Hood. But we don't get enough of that from the movie. We don't know enough about him or his gang. I know they talk about it, Bill and Jim, in one of the sequences, but Nat is not there, and Nat is supposed to be like, I wish they made a sequence of Nat Love and his gang doing something like that, and like they would have spent more time doing that. So yeah, that just doesn't work without that attachment to either the protagonist or his entire gang. And when they decide to follow him to take the revenge on Rufus Buck, you just feel like, why are they even doing this? Because you don't feel why they are so attached to like Nat, even though there's this throwaway line where Jim says, oh, you saved me, but we don't feel that at all, even though like it just feels like, okay, doesn't feel as deep and strong. And so you have like this movie with the main protagonist and his gang not kind of catching our emotions, as in like, you don't root for them, and you're not even understanding, you can't root for the villain either, and don't even understand. His character seems very, very confusing, so you have both sides being very confusing. So yeah, it doesn't make the collision or the fight between them as interesting as it could have been. Now, the bad. Okay, so going into the bad, I feel the entire idea of having real people and creating fictional stories with them is very problematic. I don't know if other people are bothered by it, but I am. So it's like, kind of feels like you're playing around. I know they've been dead for long enough, but still it feels like you're playing around with legacies and ideas and names of people who are there. You're saying that like, oh, your story is not interesting enough, I'll make an interesting story about you. I don't know how I feel about it personally, so I don't like that. I wish they created just like completely fictional characters and made a fictional story. I think it would have worked good enough. Or they could have just researched more about Rufus Buck. Even if it would have been like a documentary, they could have made a documentary about him. And I'm sure there'd be a lot of people, even me, would be actually interested to know about what these people went through when they existed. So it just feels kind of disrespectful to them and their legacy and their life and the thing that they had to go through. That's just me. The second thing that I really didn't like is like, I know it's a very small thing, but like just after the opening scene, they write sometime later, and it just took me out of the character because like he was all grown up just after the title, like the timestamp, and it just felt very weird. I didn't actually like it. And then like there's, even in the church sequence after that, there's like no emphasis on why I should root for this protagonist, because like I wish they showed him kind of fighting like people other than the people he needs to take revenge from, like him just by himself trying to fight and do good, like him having a separate moral other than him wanting revenge. Just the entire church sequence, like, oh, he kills the person who was part of Rufus Buck's gang when he got, like, his head got cut and his parents got killed. So it just feels like you don't know why you're rooting for him to get his revenge, even though like his parents were killed, which is understandable. But like, I don't think like there's enough there. They could have been more. It could have been better. That's just how I feel. I wish they showed more of Nat Love and his gang separate. So yeah, I don't like that. And thirdly, about something that I didn't enjoy, I felt like the soundtrack by itself can be really, really good, and I've talked about it before in the review that like it kind of elevates the entire material, but sometimes I felt like a little that the soundtrack was kind of a bit too overwhelming and was kind of too distracting away from the gravitas of the scene. Sometimes it actually didn't work for me, but sometimes it did. So it's like, yeah, what can we say? It's like here and there as well when it comes to the soundtrack. And the fourth one that I feel is like Nat Love's gang coming in to save Mary after she gets caught by Rufus Buck's gang, and them having no plan at all of how they want to go about it, and them, it just makes them feel, so you can't root for this gang, Nat Love and his gang, emotionally, because they're not spending enough time to develop them. You can't even admire them for their competence, because this entire going in head straight without any kind of plan or any kind of, like, literally nothing, makes them feel so incompetent that you're not even like trying to root for them in terms of their competence. So it just feels like, why am I even like supposed to root for them? And it just feels like that could have been the end fight, them trying to rescue Mary, and that could have been the end sequence, and they could have like cut out 30 minutes of this movie. But the last one, which I really, really dislike about this entire movie, and something that shouldn't have been in the finished product, was the silly narrative sequence of like Nat Love being captured and then being forced to rob a bank. It was so silly, it completely took me out of the movie, and I was like, what is happening? It just felt so comedic and kind of ruined the entire sequence. I wish they just threw that part out and made them coming to rescue Mary and trying to rescue her, and the explosion of the stagecoach, everything could have happened the same way. I don't know. It's just like the entire sequence kind of ruined that part for me, and the movie could have been 30 minutes short, and the script could have been more compact, and that would have made it work much better, I feel. So yeah, that's like the bad, the good, and the meh, and the amazing, everything that I feel about this movie. But finally, my verdict is, it's an amazing movie. I really enjoyed it. It's well directed. I think it has an awesome soundtrack, although I feel that it has a very weak script, and yeah, there's like not enough development for the characters that we see, and there's just additional filler in this script that could have been cut off and made into a much better movie if they could just remove those parts. And I love that the script has room to show another sequel, maybe, which I'd be very, very interested in, because Trudy's character, she's shown to be alive. At least that's what I got from it. And yeah, I would like to see her character more in the future in this world. And yeah, I just hope in the next installment that they make of this movie, the characters are more well developed and they're showing more about them. So yeah, that's my review of The Harder They Fall. Thank you very much for watching.